Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our December Board of Education meeting. I'd like you to all join me as we begin the meeting with this pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This is indeed one of the most exciting nights of the school year when we get to honor our girls and our boys soccer team. It has become almost an annual event. Thank you very much. It gives me great pleasure, particularly tonight, to honor these teams because they have had truly outstanding soccer seasons. This season, these teams have continued to win game after game, and many of them in nail-biting double overtimes. Especially when you're standing out there on the sidelines and it's getting colder and colder, you wonder, will they ever bring this to an end? They just keep on going. And although I know shootouts are very, exciting, for me they're not the fairest way to end it all, because it's such a team sport, but the rules are what they are. So our players and our coaches persevered. They always worked hard. You never pull back on your efforts, and for that you are to be admired and recognized. But most importantly, you come together as teams, and you support each other with great camaraderie and good sportsmanship. So we are very, very proud of all you have accomplished this season, and we want to give you a really roaring round of applause. But we know in order to do this, you have to have exceptional coaches. And all of our high school coaches assume many diverse roles as they instill a love of soccer in each and every one of you. Our head coaches, Kevin Ewing and Tom Bresnitsky, as well as their assistant coaches, Michelle David, Matt Tiedemann, Joe Higgins, Joe Mortarolo, Ken Ellsworth, and Ryan McKenna, have all had a positive effect on the personal development of these young athletes. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize tonight that Kevin Ewing was named the 2016 Fall Coach of the Year. As the girls went undefeated in an 18-0-4 in their regular season, and they were also the sectional finalists. Tom Bresnitsky, the boys' head soccer coach, achieved his 700th career win on our own Wexler field on September 15th in front of a large crowd of fans. This is an amazing accomplishment. And so on behalf of the board and myself, we want to thank all of you for the many hours that you spent on the fields, for our coaches working with the athletes, and for the athletes persevering. But I also want to thank your parents. Parents, you're always there in the background. You cheer these students on. You lift up their spirits on those rare times when they lose, and you offer huge words of encouragement when the games don't always go the way we'd like them to go. But most importantly, you're also there to cheer them on when they win, and we know that they do that often and they do it well. Thank you for being there for them, because without your support, they couldn't achieve what they achieved. So students, please thank your parents. We do have resolutions tonight that individual board members will read, and we will be presenting you with those resolutions. But before we get to that portion, I'd like to give Brian Miller the opportunity, if he'd like, to say a few words on behalf of the work that we've done in our district relative to supporting these teams and this work with the coaches.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. This is, it's always the best day of the year. And it never gets old, it never gets tired. It's wonderful. I'm looking forward to coming back here next year to award our next teams. For the seniors, what you've done to lead this program is incredible. You learned from great leaders ahead of you. For the underclassmen, I hope that you've seen the leadership examples in front of you and you continue to follow that. Our coaches are amazing people. They all tell you the same thing. They do it for love and passion. This isn't about, I got paid to be a soccer coach. This is about how much I love this sport, how much I love progressing it. Soccer is one of the fastest growing sports finally in the United States. It's finally catching up with the rest of the world. You're that example. And we stole it from a banner up in Kearney, but I love saying it. It's sad that they have a banner, but we're definitely Soccer Town USA. And congratulations to all of you.
Now I'd like to invite Dr. Heisey up, and I'd like to have him assist as we present the certificates to the students. We have, first resolution will be read on behalf of the girls soccer team, and we have Evan Murray, who's going to read that resolution.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. I'm going to apologize in advance if I butcher anybody's name. Sorry. So, whereas the 2016 Scotch Plains Family High School varsity girls soccer team achieved an impressive soccer record of 18 wins, 0 losses, and 4 ties, and whereas this varsity girls soccer team continued the tradition of being one of the top teams in Union County and the state of New Jersey, and whereas on October 28, 2016, the Scotch Plains Family High School varsity girls soccer team competed in the Union County Championship against Oakville at Kane University. Scotch Plains family upended Oakville 1-0 in overtime, earning their 7th consecutive county title and 11th in the past 12 years. And whereas the girls soccer team was the Watchung Division champions of the Union County Conference, they advanced to the semifinals of the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association sectional tournament. Whereas the 2016 Scotch Plains Family High School girls varsity soccer team consists of the following players: Gabrielle Allo, Kylie Byrne, Sophie Browse, Isabel Corsaro, Maria Del Sordi, Stephanie DeVizio, Melissa DiFrancesco, Taylor Diggs, Sabrina DeLolo, Gina Farahouse, Maya Kessler, Gabrielle Kowalczyk, Kayla Krudis, Andrea Leitner, Elizabeth Lay, Amanda Logie, Carrie McNeely, Danielle Morozic, Caitlin Morozic, Erica Muskus, Brianna O'Brien, Christina Rogers, Maggie Trena, Ashley Vincent, Julia Zukoski. Whereas the 2016 Scotch Plains Family High School varsity girls soccer team, directed by head coach Kevin Ewing and assistant varsity coach Michelle David, assisted by JV coach Matt Keeman and freshman coach Joe Higgins, exhibited outstanding talent, dedication, and teamwork throughout the season. And whereas this team received recognition by students, staff, and the Scotch Plains family communities for their outstanding efforts and achievements. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education recognizes and congratulates the 2016 varsity girls soccer team and their coaches for one of the best seasons in Scotch Plains Family High School athletic history and extends to them the best wishes for continued success.
And now I'd like to call Board Member Jean Cleary to read the resolution on behalf of the boys soccer team.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you all tonight. Whereas the 2016 Scotch Plains Family High School varsity boys soccer team achieved an impressive soccer record of 22 wins and 4 losses. And whereas this varsity boys soccer team continued the tradition being one of the most prominent boys soccer programs in Union County and the state of New Jersey. And whereas on November 10th, 2016, the Scotch Plains Family High School boys soccer team captured the NJSIAA North 2 Group 4 Sectional Championship, defeating the Bridgewater Raritan Panthers for a 3-1 victory at Wexler Field. And whereas the varsity boys soccer teams then advanced to the Group 4 finals on Tuesday, November 15th, after defeating the Cardinals 1-0 in double overtime before an enthusiastic crowd of more than 500 fans. And whereas the 2016 Scotch Plains Farmwood High School varsity boys soccer team consists of the following players: Andrew Borick, John Brady, Robert Devine Gelling, Thomas DeVizio, Parker Warren, Patrick Ellman, Benjamin Essenfeld, Alex Ferrara, Michael Ferrara, Alex Levy, Alex Lipschitz, Anthony Nicolino, Max Moore, Sean Murphy, Owen Murphy, Sean Murray, Andrew Murray, Brian Peterson, Brogan Quigley, Steven Scarcella, Jonathan Schwab, Aaron Schack, Rock Valiant, Robert Biglione, Andrew Walker, Brian Whitman. Whereas the 2016 Scotch Plains Farmwood High School varsity boys soccer team, directed by head coach Tom Resnitsky and assistant varsity coach Joe Mardello, assisted by JV coach Ken Ellsworth and freshman coach Ryan McKenna, exhibited outstanding talent, dedication, and teamwork throughout the season. And whereas this team received recognition by student, staff, and Scotch Plains and Farmwood communities for their outstanding efforts and achievements. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Farmwood Board of Education recognizes and congratulates the 2016 varsity boys soccer team and their coaches for their outstanding achievements and extends to them best wishes for continued success.
Okay, now if we could have Coach Resnitsky, don't sit down, come on up. Nancy Bauer.
So before I read the last resolution, I do want to, on behalf of the entire board, offer our congratulations as well to both teams for a very successful season. We know how much commitment, hard work, passion, self-discipline, dedication it takes to be successful. And we want to echo what Dr. Hayes said to the parents. We know how much your support, not just in high school, but for many years, I'm sure, was involved in helping your sons or daughters get here this evening. So congratulations again from all of us. Whereas Mr. Tom Britsnitsky has been the head coach for the Scotch Plains Farmwood varsity boys soccer team since 1975. And whereas Coach Brett's teams have garnered 7 state championships, 9 North Group championships, 19 sectional titles, 19 county titles, and 27 conference titles. And whereas Scotch Plains Farmwood head coach Tom Britsnitsky was awarded his 700 career victory when the boys varsity soccer team defeated Elizabeth High School at Shelley Wexler Field on September 15, 2016, in front of a large crowd of parents, students, and alumni. And whereas Coach Brez is one of only 3 coaches in the nation to be an active coach with more than 700 wins, Coach Brez owns a career winning percentage over .813, excluding ties. And whereas Coach Brez's teams have amassed a total of 718 wins, 165 losses, 61 ties through the end of the 2016 season. And whereas Coach Brez has sent an amazing number of student athletes to Division I, II, and III college levels to extend their playing careers. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education hereby congratulates head coach Tom Brzezinski on achieving the 700th soccer victory, and thanks him for bringing pride and recognition to Scotch Plains Fanwood High School and the communities of Scotch Plains and Fanwood, and for sharing his passion for the game of soccer with his players, and for being a mentor, motivator, and friend to countless young men in his 41 years of coaching. One thing I was going to mention before, in my job, I work with a number of school districts across the state, and they're always commenting on our soccer teams and their success. And I remember one of them said to me, "Do you all feed them soccer balls down there, or what?" So congratulations again to both teams and Coach Press. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to certainly, without a doubt, congratulate the girls. Your accomplishments have been tremendous. I think it's only because we share the field. And I think certainly within X number of years, Coach Ewing will be standing up here and getting the same acclimate. So, congratulations, girls. Board of Education, I thank you very much for this evening, acknowledging the teams for their success, acknowledging my too many years of being the coach. People ask me, 700 wins, what I said, look, there's several things. Number one, you're old, age, number of years coaching. A school district that is very, very friendly and does, many things to accommodate our programs, especially in soccer, the second turf field X number of years ago, which is somewhat of a rarity for high schools. The administration at the high school, Dr. Heisey, our athletic director, Ryan Miller, but most of all, the players. All right, out of those 700 some wins, 22 of them are a direct result of them. We've been very, very fortunate with student athletes that we've had over the years. Great kids, fun to coach, and as we wear on our backs of our t-shirts and some other things is a little logo that we've had for many years, a tradition of excellence, which each and every team that comes through works very, very hard to make sure that they do as well and to uphold that tradition of excellence the best that they can. So, I thank you, Dr. Hayes, Board of Education, and for this evening, and wish you a happy holiday season. Thank you very much.
And now, Mr. Ewing, come on up. It's always fair. And I know he doesn't necessarily love it when I call on him to speak, but I do want to give him the opportunity.
All right, first I'd like to thank the Board of Education for honoring both the boys and the girls here this evening. I know they appreciate it. I want to thank Dr. Hayes. I think she chooses the coldest days of the year to come out to watch both the boys and the girls. Every time I look up and it's a cold night or a cold day, she is there. So thank you very much, Dr. Hayes. I would like to specifically congratulate Mr. Brzezinski, for all he has done, not only for the boys, but also for the girls. Thank you for sharing the field. But specifically, I'd like to say congratulations to the girls. Can't be successful without good players, and you guys are good players, excellent students, and I appreciate coaching you, and I love coaching each and every one of you, so thank you very much. Also, thank you, Dr. Heisey and Mr. Miller. Thank you very much.
Okay, now, before you move, there's always the important thing, and that is the photo op. So, if the girls would first stand and turn around and face the back, right? And kind of arrange arrange yourself so that nobody's face is in front of somebody else's? That would be great. Look at this organization. Are these girls bright or what? Okay. Now guys, watch how they're doing this. All right, now gentlemen, it's your turn. Thank you, girls. All right, now, we have one last piece of formal business to do, so I'm going to turn it over to our board president.
Our board members reminded me we have to make these official, so I'm looking for a motion for all three resolutions. Second? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, your resolutions are official. Thank you.
We have some refreshments in the back, so please enjoy yourselves. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the open agenda meeting for the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education for December 15th. Mrs. Saradaki, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Dr. Clancy? Here. Dr. Kulikowski? Here. Mr. Murray?
Here.
Ms. Shermer?
Here.
Williams? Here. Mrs. Winkler? Here. Mrs. Cleary? Here. Mrs. Bauer?
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Please join us in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the board met in executive session, and we discussed personnel, HIB, suspension and detention, legal reports. And we also had the pleasure before that of meeting and congratulating the boys and girls soccer teams for their successes this season, and recognizing Coach Brzezinski for his 700th win. I think it said one of 3 coaches in the country. So, notice of this meeting was given to the Borough Clerk of Fanwood, the Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, to the Scotch Plains Times, and the Patch. So, we have the opportunity for anyone who would like to come to the microphone according to the Scotch Plains Fanwood policies 0164 and 0165. If anyone would like to come to the microphone, please state your name and the town in which you reside.
Please just come to the microphone.
You have to come to the microphone because you'll be on TV.
Can you hear me? Is it on?
Yes.
Okay.
And your name? And
Lucy Burst, and I live in Scotch Plains.
Okay.
And my son attends Coles, but this isn't about him. So it seems that recently, given the current political climate that we're in, some of the rhetoric has filtered into our schools via the students, and there have been a few incidents of harassment of minority students, and there are some concerned parents here, and we just want to know a few things. You mentioned that HIB was on the agenda, so it seems that that's in place and being utilized. But just wondering, specific to current issues that are going on, what is the policy and procedure to address hate speech and harassment in the schools? Are teachers and staff trained to address these incidents? And is there any part of the curriculum or special programs to teach students tolerance and racial sensitivity in our current climate? And just kind of wanted to start the conversation if it's not already happening.
We have a number of programs, I think, and I don't know whether Dr. Hayes or Dr. Mass want to speak to some of the...
Well, it's interesting, if you stay through the meeting tonight, one of the things that's on the agenda is actually, and this was not planned because we didn't know you were going to be here, we have Kaylin Taggart here tonight, Kaylin Taggart-Franz, who is our district's anti-bullying coordinator. And she will be speaking shortly to a multiple of programs that we have to counteract the horrible, impact that either harassment, bullying, or intimidation can have. So we do have regular programming that goes on throughout the school year, in addition to a very robust approach to addressing those incidents when they're reported to us. We follow up on every reported incident of bullying, harassment, or intimidation. Those reports are handled according to law, but also not just in a perfunctory manner of, oh, you have to follow this. They're done with great attention, and every one of them rises to my level, and I review every one of them, and then share those outcomes with the board. So we really do pay very close attention. We all recognize that we have just come through a cycle where, relative to societal-wise, we wish in many cases that some of adults could set higher examples for children. We're cognizant of that, but we do our best within our schools to make sure that our staff comports themselves appropriately in terms of those adult roles to model correct behavior for children. There are some specific courses that deal with some of those topics, particularly in the high school, but even as young as our elementary schools, there are lessons in terms of treating one another respectfully that begin in the elementary school grades. And we have one of our middle school principals here who can equally speak to the variety of programming that's done in the middle schools as well, relative to setting good examples for kids. So, without saying more than that, I invite you to stay and hear that report. There is another instructional update before we get to that, but we do take those things very, very seriously.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else? Yes. You need to come to the microphone.
My name is Lydia Kaplan. I am not a resident of Scotch Plains. I'm in the local community, but I'm here to lend support anonymously to a parent who, with all these wonderful things in place, and I'm an educator, so I recognize that you have everything right in place. But in this particular climate, sometimes the parent is afraid to come forward. And I think we need to think about how to incorporate that concern into a bullying plan. Any good parent wants to step forward and say, I'm concerned about my son, my daughter. A teacher might hear it at school, but if a parent is afraid to step forward, then what? So I think this is going to just be a modern problem that we're all going to have to figure out. Not a Scotch Plains thing, but...
Right. And certainly, parents are encouraged to speak to either the child's counselor, the child's principal. They can reach out to me directly. My door is always open. Most recently, we have had a program with the Scotch Plains Police Department that has addressed issues about cyber issues relative to children not behaving appropriately in terms of cyber issues. So we do everything we can within our power to encourage that openness and that availability. So as you're here, to sort of support someone, you're not from the community, but from a neighboring community and are supportive of someone within our community,
I would encourage you to have them to reach out to me.
Well, it's very comforting to hear this.
Good.
We're very appreciative, so thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to come to the microphone? Okay, then seeing no one, we're going to go to the first instructional update.
Okay, the first instructional update, I'm going to turn over to Dr. Mass to introduce. We have a rare treat tonight because we're not only going to be hearing from students in terms of some innovative work that they've been doing under the leadership of their teachers, but I understand we're also going to have the opportunity to engage in some of this activity ourselves. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mass so that she can introduce it.
This year, we had just yet another example of teachers taking leadership role in professional development. And that's what we're going to learn about. So I'd rather wait to comment until after it happens, because I think we're going to learn a lot about the event. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Prestridge and Ms. Hanner to lead the program.
Take the heads on. Here's some here.
Okay, thank you very much for having us. I'm Barbara Prestridge and I teach art at Park. And Alex Hanner is a writing workshop teacher at Park. And we're going to tell you tonight about some professional development that we have gone through and the professional development that we created when we came back to South Plains to share it. And as you see, you're going to participate also. So it started 2 months ago on October 20th. Dr. Mast, Noelle Baxter, Alex, and I went to Kane University for a workshop titled Explorations into Diversity, Identity, and Inclusion. And they were addressing the vast diversity at Kane, as well as so many Union County schools, and about children identifying with how vast our population is becoming diverse, hopefully. And Dr. Joseph Amarino, who is the head of art education at Kane, he spoke about how art, being a universal language, could help these children from all over the world begin to communicate that they are having very similar experiences as usually America children. And along with Dr. Amarino was Janice Kaprowski, who is the director of the Holocaust Resource Center at Kane. And the four of us spent a day with them making art and finding ways to tell our personal stories through art. So when we came back to Scotch Plains, we wanted to continue what we learned at Park. And with Alex being a writing teacher, we knew that we wanted to combine art and writing together. And for years, I've done abstract expressionism where I had art and writing combined, where the children were giving very personal stories, but it wasn't until we wrote about them that they were more understandable. So for me personally, the idea of working with writing teachers was going to take my writing part of the art to the next level. And so it was exciting to get this working together and to then extend the art into more writing workshop teachers. So we have the basic belief that art will give richer imagery into writing. That if we pre-write in the form of art, that's going to affect the quality of the writing that comes afterwards. And this actually could happen with using any art. If we danced and did things with our body as a pre-write to writing, it's going to change how we write. We're using it in art, but it's far more expandable than just that. So
with that belief that art will give new imagery to writing, I also know as an artist that writing feeds into my art. I write all the time before I begin a painting. So all of these arts, writing, and all of them are very interconnected, and we want to start intermixing them more in all of our classrooms and using our staff in this integrated kind of way. So we began putting together a workshop. We knew that we had to have artwork to give back to Kane. They had asked that we go home and do this with students and then bring it back to their having a show at the Human Rights Institute Art Gallery at Kane. And this week I delivered artwork that we created at this workshop and will now be on display at Kane for the full spring semester. So we're excited to have our students' work on display at Kane. So we built this workshop as a full-day PD in the art room at Park, and we did it in a lab form where we had 16 7th grade students, and then we had 7 7th grade writing workshop teachers, and a slew full of administrators. Dr. Dumoresk was there, Dr. Mast, Noelle Baxter, Liz McKenna, Dr. Hayes, and Janice Kaprowski came from Kane to also be with us that day. And we had all of the staff, all of the educators do the same projects that the children were doing. So they were really interacting and feeding off of each other. And it was an exciting day. And we felt that for writing teachers to begin to embrace the idea that they could do art as they're pre-writing into their writing classroom, that they had to go through this process. And if we have the belief that we don't understand that which we haven't experienced, we are having you experience part of this tonight also. And we're going to be doing what are called sensory holding forms. Dr. Amarillo, I think you made that one up. And it's a very quick way to energetically, dynamically get ideas down quick and just get things percolating. And this can be a pre-draw for artwork. It can be a pre-writing piece as well. And when we're working with multiple arts, you're addressing our multiple intelligences, and it's going to grab different people different ways, but it will enrich both the art and the writing. So we are going to have you do some of the exercises that we did that day, and they're quick. Hanging on that board there is a very quick piece that's similar to what you might be doing, and it's titled Labor Day in Scotch Plains. So, for all you Scotch Plains residents, can anyone tell me what that picture is about?
The parade or the thing at St. Bart's Festival?
Oh, the thing at St. Bart's, yes. It's an Italian festival at St. Bart's, and I wanted it to be a sensory piece. And sometimes we think, well, how can you make smells and how can you make sounds? And that's an abstract, energetic kind of way to do that. So believing that, well, with our students, we wanted to encourage them to do pieces about their own memories, their own identities. So when I thought of the Italian festival at St. Bart's, I took a memory that I've long held regarding that. And it's about my father, who passed 26 years ago. And my father was an engineer who was very respectable, very organized kind of guy, who occasionally could get silly. And starting August 1st every year, as soon as that sign goes across Park Avenue, my father would say, "Oh, I only have 30 more days until my sausage pepper sandwich." And he would come home every day because he had to drive up to somewhere. And every day going to work and home, he would pass that sign, and he would do a countdown all of August. When was he going to get that sausage and pepper sandwich? And coming from our home of a Pennsylvania Dutch mother cook, sausage and pepper sandwiches were not happening at our house. So once a year, he got the sandwich. And this was kind of my tribute to him. And every year we still go to St. Bart's in his memory to get the sausage and pepper. And within that piece, there's the smell of the sausage and pepper. There's also the smell of the Zeppelis, because, well, that's kind of my thing, and all the energy that goes on at that fair. It's an exciting weekend. It's the weekend before school starts. I get to see all the kids that I'm going to see again the next day. And there is no imagery that you recognize. We do kind of have a speaker because that 50-50 we can hear all through the neighborhood, but it's got the energy of how I perceive that weekend event. So what we're going to be doing is taking an event that all of you have experienced. But first, we're going to look at these 4 pieces here. They are about a pine forest, and each of them interprets the sound of a pine forest, the feel of the needles, the smell of a pine forest, and how you spiritually feel in a big empty forest. They all have written elements to go with them, and that was done a very long time ago, and I don't know if I wrote the pieces first and then did the collages or vice versa. But that's how these things can so interact together. The writing can come first or the artwork can come first. So for you, we're going to be doing some writing first and then a very quick 5-minute draw. When we're doing abstract expressive work, we're doing a picture of, we're not doing a picture of something, we're doing a picture about it. So we're going to take the topic of Hurricane Sandy, and we just want you to throw out adjectives. And Alex is going to write down adjectives that you remember, your most powerful memories of Hurricane Sandy. Someone give us an adjective.
Cold.
Dark.
Wet. Airy. Wet. Crowded.
Loud.
Tiring. No lights, no heat.
Frustrating.
This is weird, but cozy.
No, weird.
It's going to be
Quiet. Overwhelming.
homeless. Family. Disconnected.
So, if we think about visual art as a universal language, there are certain lines, shapes, colors that we just all understand. If you were looking at a horizontal painting of undulating lines and pastel colors, it would be a very peaceful kind of image. If you saw something that was all scribbly and dynamic and black and red, totally different mood than the other. So you already know these languages. And what you're going to do right now is pick one of your Hurricane Sandy memories. You are not doing a picture of Hurricane Sandy, you are doing it about. So right now you're going to take 5 minutes, jump into your oil pastels and draw your special personal story of Hurricane Sandy. You have 5 minutes.
And then we have to show them to people too?
And within these 5 minutes, you need a title for that piece. You put it on the front, you can put it on the back. What inspired this image? And it can't be Hurricane Sandy. Think of more.
I really miss this out. Trees are good, it's just all the darkness behind them.
When you are doing an image like this, it's requiring using a totally different language, a deeper intellectual engagement with the subject, and all of this feeds into your understanding in a different way. You're not looking at your piece judgmentally for what the image is, but more for what it dug up out of your memory for what it is you wanted to talk about and express. And this, if you were to write, this would have lit the first fire to what writing lights ahead.
Raise my hand than me. I realize that.
No pressure, but you have 1 more minute and a title.
A title. 1 more minute. I know. And so this is the one where it's gray and it was black when we were exposed. This is the line between kind of out there. Where it was warm and it was
Now, if this was a regular class, we would display the pieces, we would discuss what's common about them, what themes are running through them all. When I've done this with students and adults, I've had very different images out of adults and different memories out of same level of angst that perhaps we, the adults, did. But now, Alex is going to move us into the next part.
So this was one of the first activities that we did with the students and teachers on the day of the workshop. And we found it to be a really great entry point for a few reasons. The first being that it was a very obvious connection between the written expression and the artistic expression to generate the words and phrases beforehand. And the participants were able to see in a simple form how one would enhance the other. And the other reason to reinforce what Barb said was the fact that this was a shared experience, a universal experience for everyone who was there. And students, rather than draw pictures of the event, were able to see distinctions between one another because they were about something a little deeper than a replication of what they experienced. So throughout the course of the day, students did go more personally into their own experiences, as that was the overall objective. And through the packet that you received, there is a packet with a beautiful final piece on the front of it. That was one of our students' submissions to the Kane exhibit. On the second and third pages is where we moved into later in the day, where we started to give the students some personal reflection time to think about what it is that makes them who they are and memories that have been influential to their identity. So they were given the opportunity to bullet point or write narratively or draw, to pre-write, or to really brainstorm for what would ultimately become the final product. And with that said, we'd like to invite two of our students to share their final products. Right now we're going to be starting with Charles Garrett. So we're going to put it up on the screen, the artwork, and he's going to read his for us.
Okay, so my piece is titled My Journey. Journeys in life give us a maniacal ride. Once I had a dream to be a black belt, and it brought an erratic journey. I had obstacles in the road though, boulders rolling down my path, crushing my way, but I still persevered no matter what. As soon as I escaped, I got right back on track, courage flowing through my veins, but eventually I made it to the summit.
And Julia Rosen is our second speaker.
My piece, which I recorded about half an hour ago, is called Lonely Heart. I have two brothers, we have 3 hearts. How do I grasp them when they're so far apart? Years upon years I have waited for connection, with both physical and emotional distance that keeps us from being together. However, would they spend time with me? Sometimes, but one way or another, they feel they are better. I claw at the few moments we have together, it rips the strings.
Beautiful. Thank you both. So I'm also going to invite them to talk for a few minutes about their experience in the lab format of the workshops. You can both come up and...
So I thought it was a very cool experience because we got to work alongside with teachers, which is something that doesn't normally happen in school. Because normally teachers are the ones who are teaching us, but we got to learn alongside them. One of the most exciting parts was that even as students, we got to help some of the teachers doing their art, as well as they got to help us. So it was very fun, and I hope that I get to do something like this again.
As Charlie touched upon, I thought that after the initial butterflies, since the teachers were interviewing us, it could be fun to, interview them. So I walked over to the table and I had a casual conversation with mostly who I would call the people above me. But in this situation, we were, co-workers, and it was really fun opportunity. In the open studio environment, I found it really cool because stitching my piece together by hand brought more sentimental value to it for me, because I put more hard work into it than I would just doodling on a math paper with a pencil. So yeah, it was really cool to be able to just walk around the studio and look for certain materials that would fit my piece best.
And then we also got to learn how writing affected art. And as we did the activity where we would write down adjectives and then we would do art about them. I really thought that the adjectives would add more detail to the art. For example, we did about the Italian festival too. And we were talking about like different sensory details of the food and the smells of the festival. And that added wavy lines of browns and oranges to reflect the tastes and the scrumptious sense of all the food at the Italian festival.
So my art influenced my writing because parts of my writing was more abstract, but a lot of it was also very literal in relation to what I had created. And I found that as I was doing my art piece, sitting there for the entire school day, I saw like little fragments of it come together in my mind, and just it created a nice cohesive poem that can, be read in my own voice and not in a very robotic and monotonous tone. So it was really cool how I saw that come together, and I really enjoyed feeling my heart and soul go into it quite daily.
We were so grateful to have a group of students who were so eager and on board. Very proud of this kind of stuff. So as the students were in the open studio that Julia was speaking about and having the opportunity to really delve into the art piece, the writing teachers were given a little bit of time to work together, about an hour, to reflect upon the morning and the experience that they themselves were experiencing, the artwork themselves and the writing that the students were also participating in the lab. And opening up those channels proved to be a really great way to then discuss the professional development of the morning. And the ideas were flowing so quickly and naturally about how we could incorporate art into the writing classroom. And much like Barbara said, I think that we all agreed that 99, if not 100% of the time when we're preparing students to write in writing workshop, we are asking them to write, to prepare to write. And while that might be a great strategy for some, it certainly might not be for everybody. So I think that was our big aha moment, seeing how we could use art and many other forms of expression to pre-write in the writing workshop classroom. So we were so thankful that we had such a supportive group of students and teachers who were eager to be on board, and then most of all, a supportive district. We want to thank Joan Mast for helping us throughout this whole thing. It was, lots of meeting beforehand, lots of organizing. Dr. Dumaresk for coming, Dr. Hayes for coming that day as well. Just the overall support and the arts department in this district is really remarkable, so we really want to thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions?
Well, I think we'll go back.
No questions, but the comment on the details of the corde tendone that you use the gold thread to put your pieces of the heart together is just amazing. It's so stunning, and I can see the meaning that you said about joining the three of you together. That's really nice.
Anyone else have a comment or a question?
You do better than we could possibly ever do.
I'm so embarrassed. Both images were beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I just want to emphasize, I think that it's, you know, every time we have presentations like this, it just emphasizes the talent that we have in the district, and every one is just more impressive than the next. I think it's just, you know, a phenomenal testament to the staff and students that we have in the district. And I just, you know, I think it's one of those moments where, you know, you're very proud to, you know, be able to showcase all the good things that we do, because I think it's really a positive. So thank you.
I second that motion.
Thank you.
And I would just say to the two students, you did a lovely job at expressing yourselves. I don't know if you had to write that out first, but it came very naturally, and your adults who are with you should be very proud of you. That was really, thank you so much for sharing with us.
And I appreciate the participation exercise that we did today. That was really nice. Thank you.
Anyone else? I wanted to just say, you know, there are all kinds of, I forget which person, Mrs. Prestridge or Mrs. Tanner, mentioned multiple intelligences, but there are all kinds of being smart. And I think we do sometimes underestimate art. Although there is a song out there that says you can't be smart without art, and art is in smart. And so I think you reminded us and possibly the students as well as teachers about that. And certainly actually, I was thinking when you were talking that art was really the written language before, you know, we had letters and all, if you think back in history. Also, I think it was Mrs. Prestridge talking about writing before she did art, and I remember hearing an artist talk to students and talk about the research and the thought and the preparation she did, and they were like, "You do research? I thought you just," you know. And so I think the thought, the words that you all were describing that you did before you started, kind of having your brain flowing. And what a wonderful thing to remind teachers that they can be helped. They don't have to know everything. So I think Charles and Julia, you did a wonderful thing, you and your classmates, by you know, working alongside the teachers. And you did do a wonderful job tonight, standing up, and hopefully you'll come back to another board meeting sometime. Because this is the best part of board meetings, is having opportunities like this. So we thank your teachers for all that you did to bring this back to the district after having that opportunity yourselves, and to Dr. Mast. And I'm sure Dr. Hayes wants to say a few words.
I just want to not only thank you, but I also want to give out a shout out to Kane University, because it was through the support of Kane University that we were able to bring this program to our district. We've had so many wonderful opportunities to work with Kane over the last 2 years. And I do believe that this is connected to their diversity council initiatives, right? So going back to the speakers that came up before with a concern about how the district is addressing things like diversity and gaining increased respect for one another, this is just a natural part of what we do. And you're on that council at Kane. So, right. And so we really are very grateful that our district has the opportunity to participate in forums such as that then lead to opportunities such as you saw the fruits of tonight. You know, the staff from Kane were so excited to work with you and to work with the writing workshop teachers. They certainly shared with me how the culture and the climate within the school gave evidence to just how much we value student voice as well as teacher voice. And I think you gave great evidence to that tonight. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Mast. Because she was supposed to introduce, remember? And then she held us in suspense. Yes. Sure. Come to the mic.
Please come up.
I'm Julia Rosen's parent, and I'm an artist, and I'm an art teacher as well. And I am so grateful that our district is investing time and energy into programs like this, because art, to many superintendents, is like 1 hour, maybe once a week, and then the art teacher scrambles to put the projects together and keep their projects dry. And rarely do we have a whole day to dedicate to creation of one thing. A project-based learning is so precious and so valuable, and I'm very grateful that my daughter can participate in this and that there are teachers who are willing to give their time and energy to foster this and diversity. Like, we are broken hearts, the people of different nations, and we need to heal. And art is a great format to begin to start the conversation. It can be a very loose way to begin talking about something very complex. And I hope that art will bring tolerance and understanding to all of us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And as an aside, I'd like to mention that we're in the final year of our strategic plan, and one of our goals was to expand relationships with universities. I think it was just at our last meeting, we also had a presentation about a project with Kane University. So one of the things that we have accomplished is expanding that relationship with the closest university to us. And also part of that was project-based type learning was part of the strategic plan as well. So we're really happy to be seeing some of the benefits of that. And you spoke very eloquently to that. Thank you.
Could I just ask, Ms. Hanner, I'm just curious, how has doing this exercise changed your everyday writing workshop classes? I'm just curious.
That's a great question. I actually can speak to something recent. Students are beginning to talk about persuasive writing, and just in an example, we used to teach counter arguments in a structured way through writing, and now we are looking at it through the lens of artwork by first considering as an entry point what it feels like when someone doesn't agree with you, or you can't persuade someone to agree with you, and the expression we are using and the form through which we're expressing that is through artwork to lead us into that lesson. So that's just one small way, but we found very quickly that every genre can lend itself to art in different ways, but the pre-writing is the place where we see it most easily integrated.
Dr. Mast, we haven't let you really say anything.
As I reflect on what is most profound about this experience is it was really a disruption of our typical practice. And in going to that workshop and experiencing this, when I did this that day at Kane, I was so far out of my comfort zone. I really wanted to sneak out of the place. But staying through the course, I could just feel how it changed my heart, and it opened my mind to how powerful it would be for the kids. And then bringing it back to Park and talking to Dr. Dumaresque, she said that we could make this happen if we just get out of the teacher's way, because they have the expertise, they have the creativity, they know the kids, and they know how they could bring this model up to scale. So that's really all I did, and what Dr. Dumaresque did is we just got out of the way and gave them the support that they needed to make it happen. So it's just, in that disruption, I think we should really strategically design more disruptions like this because they really impact the system in a significant way. So thank you to both Alex and Barbara and the students because the amount of personal time that they put into this is really hard to measure. I think they became like a close family. They spend so much time together. And it's really an example of going well over and above and beyond. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on to our next instructional update, but we always say, especially to students, that you don't have to stay for the rest. You're welcome to stay, but if you have homework and other things to do, you certainly are free to go. And we are going to have the report now.
And our thanks to the parents who came out tonight to support their students. Obviously, we couldn't have them here without you. So thank you, and thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Alex. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Do you want to do any introduction to Kate?
For the EWRS? Okay. Okay. And so now we have Caitlin Franz and we have Lisa Rabimbis. They are going to be here tonight to update the board on the activities that took place between January and June of last year. The upside are the programming that we did to keep ourselves in the right place relative to encouraging tolerance and reducing incidents that we don't want to have happen in schools, and also the reporting that we've done to the state on those efforts. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Franz and Mrs. Rabimbis.
Good evening. It's tough to follow such a positive program and presentation, especially from such great students and teachers with the electronic violence and vandalism reporting system. The data presented tonight is based on 5 identified categories by the State Department of Education, and it is entered biannually into the reporting system in the state database. This data needs to be reported publicly to the board 2 times a year. The following data is for the reporting period for January of this year, of 2016, till June of 2016, last school year. So there are 5 categories that we need to report on. I will give you the category, the incidences, and the breakdown for each of those categories. We reported 17 incidences of violence in the district, 3 assault, 12 fight, and 2 threats, 5 incidences of vandalism, 2 damage to property, and 3 of theft, 0 weapons incidences in the district, 2 substance incidences, 2 in regard to possession, and 8 confirmed HIB incidences. Kaylin Franz, we're struggling with that tonight. Kaylin Franz will go over the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report that needs to be presented annually as well.
Good to see you all again.
Good to see you.
As you know, I'm going to go a little longer, so bear with me. Again, just like Mrs. Rabimbis said, the following data is for the reporting period of January to June 2016, so this past spring. Our total number of harassment, intimidation, and bullying investigations for that reporting period was 45 investigations. As Mrs. Rabimbis previously reported, our number of confirmed cases of harassment, intimidation, and bullying was 8. The status of all our investigations is complete, as recorded on our monthly Board of Ed agendas, and as you all get to hear. When we look at harassment, intimidation, and bullying in the district, one of the things we look at is, are any of our cases based on protected categories as defined under the law? For the spring reporting period, we had 2 cases based on race, 1 based on ancestry, and 1 based on gender. It's important to note that that is not necessarily an unduplicated count. Sometimes 1 case could be based on more than 1 protected category. The investigators in our district are Denise Palazzola, Marianne Degnan, Jason Cross, and Chrissy Krasovsky at our middle school. Again, some of those names aren't with our district anymore, but that's because it was for this past spring. At our elementary level, it's April Chastain and Cesare Medley, our child study team social workers. And at the high school, it is myself. When we look at confirmed cases of harassment, intimidation, and bullying, as you know, we do both discipline and remediation. For discipline imposed, we had parent conferences, student conferences, suspension of privileges, students were advised of future consequences, and detention and suspensions were given. For remediation, we had teacher monitoring of student interactions, monitoring by aides and hallway monitors, change of seating, schedule changes, limiting of interactions between students, check-ins by support staff members, paper check-in and check-out system, individualized counseling, both school and community-based, referral for community services, social skills groups, classroom-based lessons, facilitation of restitution and restoration, student conferences, parent conferences, connection to school-based sports and extracurricular activities, referral to leadership building program, individualized student safety plans, engagement of the child study team, collaboration with both local police departments, and skill building activities. Also, for the spring reporting period, I'm going to share with you our trainings and our programs for students and staff in the district. For trainings, we had harassment, intimidation, and bullying policy and protected classes training, harassment, intimidation, and bullying interventions training, and prevention training, school culture and climate training, cyberbullying and technology among teens, school-based programming training, transgender student training for staff, and outside trainings that were attended, including cyberbullying and cyber harassment, the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act, emergency management and reducing racial disparities in discipline in our schools, gang awareness, bully bias and the law conferences, educational policy, and Union County bi-monthly HIB training and collaboration meeting among all the districts in our county. For programming, and I will go fairly in order of level, starting with our high school, we had the Green Dot Bystander Intervention Program, Healthy Lifestyle Assemblies, the high school peer leaders providing emotional lessons at our elementary, service learning, effective school solutions wraparound services, anti-bullying public service announcements, school-wide assemblies on bullying and related topics, the ACE program to reinforce positive behaviors, LEAD programming, the STAR program, PALS, Think Purple activities, New Jersey CAN Career and Life Readiness program, Walk-A-Day program, diversity conference attendance at Kane, classroom-based character education lessons, conflict resolution lessons, field days for team building, school spirit and school culture activities, new student orientations, school transition collaboration and planning, community service-based clubs, Black History Month activities, the Ruler Program, Global Diversity Nights, cross-age peer teaching lessons on empathy, social skills groups for targeted students, classroom discussions on harassment, intimidation, bullying policy, and student rights in New Jersey, bucket filling program, mix it up lunch to encourage diversity, random acts of kindness activities, and responsive classroom programming at the elementary. Whew. That's it.
Okay. Are there any questions from anyone about any of the programs?
I'm just curious, of the 45 cases that came in, of which 8 were, just to guess, what was the percentage of staff versus parents versus kids coming forward, or was it a mixture? I'm just curious. Was it parents initiating the...
You know what, it looks different, particularly it looks different at our different levels. So at our elementary and middle, and particularly at middle, we tend to see more parents. At the high school, we tend to see more students or student peers reporting. But at our middle schools, we do also have ways for students to report themselves, but we see a difference depending on age and developmental level.
Do any of these people ever do it a second time?
Or does that stop them after the things that we try to do to get them to understand?
You know, I like to say, I say to kids all the time, I have a pretty good rate here. Because the biggest worry for our kids is if I tell you it's going to get worse. It's not something that we see. And it's because we're very thoughtful in terms of, you heard me when I said consequences and remediation. That remediation section is way bigger than the consequences section. Because the consequence is important, the discipline is important, the remediation is what changes the behavior. So we have a very, very high success rate in terms of not having kids re-perform the acts that they originally did.
Kaylin, to a point that was made earlier this evening, as far as reporting, it's not necessary for someone to even give their name.
Oh, God, no.
Right. We do have, I know we've spoken about this separately, but we do have the availability for anyone to anonymously report a concern that they may have regarding their own student or another student.
And I get calls oftentimes to my office where I'll say, you know, if you don't give me your name, I don't know it. And people will ask questions in the same way that I encourage people to call our police department and just ask questions without giving your name. People can always do that with me. One of the things I do, because I'm in the high school, one of the things I do at the high school is I show all our ninth graders where my mailbox is. Because it's really easy to go into the office and put something in a mailbox without your name on it. And so they all know. Yep. And again, same with parents and community members. My line, everyone else's line is always open, even if it's just to ask questions without a name attached. Absolutely.
That's great, thank you.
Anyone else? You would have to come to the microphone.
Thank you so much. That was so enlightening. I'm just wondering, has your approach to remediation changed at all given the current politics and specific things are being said, like about a wall being built to keep people out, or calling people of certain faiths terrorists and that type of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things. The first thing is we are consistently, myself along with our specialists, we're looking at the trends in the district. So if things pop up as a trend, we're addressing them as they come up. So that's something that we're always doing. Sometimes it takes a little longer for us to see a trend. So before a trend comes up, I'm seeking out those opportunities to make sure that I'm hearing about them and gathering the correct information and training for us to address them. So a perfect example that fits really well with your question is this spring, you're all going to get my request for it, and Lisa already did. This spring, the NJ Bar Association in our state has put together a series of trainings on how to address bias based on the election in our schools. And so I just put in for that because I want to go, and then I want to bring it back to our specialists. So I'm gathering the training information, and before we can see the trends in our district via the data, I'm making sure to tap into our direct lines of seeing trends. So if you know me, much to my detriment, my social work goes way outside the walls of the school. Everyone has my cell phone. And so I'm in constant contact with Tashira Wheeler, our leader of our Black Student Union. And she and I are touching base, and she will call me on my cell phone at night and say, here's what's going on. None of my kids want to come report it, but this is what we talked about today. So that I know that that's what's going on. I've touched base relative to your concerns about the wall and those kinds of things. I've touched base with our Spanish group in the school. Our local police department, also probably to my detriment, has my cell phone. And they let me know when they're hearing things or seeing things online so that then I can come back and make sure that we address them. So it's not a perfect science, but we're making sure to get the data via the numbers and the formal procedures. I'm making sure to get the anecdotal data from our students as we see it change. And then I'm making sure that to get out ahead of it, we're going to those trainings and those things that can provide us the skills we need to address it as we change. Hopefully that answered it.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much. We always appreciate your report, and thank you for all the many programs at all the different levels. And for keeping us, the board also receives regular training, and thank you for keeping us current as well. Okay. That brings us to, did you want to? Oh, yes. I didn't mention, but I kind of skipped over it, but we do have 2 additions to the agenda. We have 3S, which is field trips, and 5S, gifts to schools, and those are the only ones I know about. Are there any others? Okay, so we're going to move on to committee reports, and I know we have some committee reports. Who would like to go?
I would like to know.
Okay.
Before I lose my screen. The curriculum committee met this past Monday, December 12th, and we met with Mrs. Materna, our world language supervisor, who spoke to the committee about the seal of biliteracy. The committee was provided with an update of a previously discussed opportunity for students. In January of 2016, New Jersey became the 15th state to implement the legislated seal of biliteracy. By achieving this seal, the students are able to demonstrate that they are able to speak, read, listen, and write in 2 or more languages. Ms. Materna outlined the requirements for the students to be eligible, and current juniors and seniors who meet the requirements are eligible to be tested in those 4 areas to earn the seal. This would go on their diploma and would be reported out to schools that they're interested in, and is a wonderful achievement for the students in the district to be able to lead to. One of the things that was mentioned was that, we do have a lot of students that do participate in world languages beyond the required length of time, but this is also an encouragement for them to maintain their studies and support them in their studies for biliteracy. So, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead here. So we were happy to hear that Mrs. Materna had been able to put together information for the students that went out. I know as a parent I received it, although we'll have to wait until next year. And I believe that at the high school, my son reported that there was discussion through the morning announcements and the teachers preparing students that may be eligible or looking forward to it next year as an opportunity. It's really, really great. Second, we had Kate Rosander discuss the kindergarten report card. Kate is our supervisor of elementary programs. So she discussed how the creation of the Scotch Plains Family Standards-based report card for grades 1 through 4, the transition to full-day kindergarten, and the implementation of Teaching Strategies Gold helped in the formation of the new kindergarten report cards. The revised report cards provide rubrics to articulate grade level expectations at 2 points in the year, I believe January and June. The New Jersey Standards for Kindergarten Learning and Teaching Strategies Gold concepts are in alignment now with district expectations, and Ms. Rosander reviewed for the committee how these concepts are then captured in the new report card. The evaluative process allows for a more robust understanding of the growth and development for all students. It was a very thorough presentation. I don't think that I would do justice to it, but she did provide a very interesting look at, especially now that we do have full-day kindergarten, how the curriculum is working and how teachers have resources and tools available to them to really do a very thorough analysis of each student as an individual and be able to report that back to parents to strengthen the parent-teacher relationship. Also, Dr. Mass kindly provided us with the action plan for park participation rates. She reviewed for us the current participation rates and presented a draft plan for the district, which is in compliance with the ESEA Accountability Action Plan, for meeting participation targets for New Jersey state assessments. And it is as exciting as it sounds. Thank you, Dr. Mast. And that completes my report. I would like to just publicly say that I apologize to the board members for not having provided this, but I wrote it about 10 minutes before I got here. So I will make sure that everybody gets a copy of my written report. And I'm happy to answer any questions I can. If you have any.
So just for one piece of clarification.
Thank you,
The
Dr.
new kindergarten report card is going to go into effect next year, right? Because they're using all that documentation to help develop it for this year, right?
They're actually planning to use it this year.
Okay. So because the board needs to then see it so that they can review it before we put it into
Yes.
place.
Kate did show, a prototype that's very close to being complete.
Okay, so
At the
that was
meeting.
where the confusion was.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was
Okay.
just some fine tuning, I believe, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so that is wonderful that we're that far along with it, but
We are, a substantial amount of work has gone into
Into
it,
it,
so we
good.
really appreciate their efforts.
Okay, so we'll look forward to seeing that. I believe policy has a report, is that right?
Should we,
so,
till we get to that portion of
yeah, you can do that, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Is there anybody else with a report? Okay, that brings us to the superintendent, Dr. Hayes.
Thank you. Tonight, 1S, I would ask that the board approve the out-of-district placement that is reported on the agenda regarding student case 2016-19.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
2S, at our next meeting, I will ask that the board affirm the superintendent's decisions in the 7 November harassment, intimidation, and bullying cases that were reported during exec session. Under 3S tonight, I would ask that the board approve 2 field trips. One that's on the first agenda, which was the Terrell Middle School Jazz Band going to Chatham Middle School in April to perform 3 styles of jazz for adjudication and feedback. And then also for our high school students, approximately 10 of them, to attend the Future Business Leaders of America North Central Regional Summit, which will be held in January at Union County Vocational Technical School in Scotch Plains.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you. 4S, at our next meeting, we will be asking that you affirm the report that you heard this evening regarding our reporting to the New Jersey Department of Education on the cases that were reported for electronic violence and vandalism, as well as the HIB reports for January 1st through June 30th, 2016. And also, at our next meeting, I will be asking that the Board of Education acknowledge the receipt of the biannual report of gifts to schools. We have the first group that was on your original agenda, and then we had the additions for Cole, School 1, and Brunner. And then 6S, we will be asking the board to approve the list of creative summer workshop classes that will be held during summer of 2017. And then finally, I would ask that the board approve the personnel agenda as reviewed in exec this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Saradaki, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Shermer?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Cleary?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, and that concludes my report.
Okay, were there any questions on any items for Dr. Hayes? Okay, then that brings us to the business functions, Mrs. Saradaki. Know if you want to group the ones you're voting on, or?
I just have one BUS. I'm asking for the board's approval of the superintendent's recommendations for staff training reimbursements on the report dated December 15th, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
2 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge receipt of disbursement listings for the month of November 2016. 3 BUS, I will be asking for the board's acknowledgement of receipt of the district security and fire drill reports for the month of November 2016. 4 BUS, I'll ask the board for approval of the renewal of the Honeywell service agreement for our instant alert system for the period March 2017 through February 2018 at a $131 increase over last year, which is approximately 1%. 5 BUS, I'll ask for the board's approval of the contract renewal with Jersey Professional Management for our Shared Services Committee. There was no increase in the cost last year, and this year the increase will be $120 for the cost increase. That's about 1.7%. 6 BUS, I'll be asking for the board's approval of the business reports for the month of November 2016. And 7 BUS, I'll be asking for the board's approval of the bill list.
Okay, are there any questions for Mrs. Saradaki? All right, thank you very much. So, Mrs. Winkler.
Okay. I would like to move that the board approve second and final reading. At our next meeting, I will ask for approval of second and final reading of the policies that we moved last month. P1220, employment of chief school administrator. P1310, employment of school business administrator. P3111, creating positions. P3125, employment of teaching staff members. P3125.2, employment of substitute teachers. P3126, district mentoring plan. P3141, resignation. PNR 3240, professional development for teachers and school leaders. PNR 3244, in-service training is to be abolished. Bylaw 0152, board officers, and P2415.3, Title I, educational stability for children in foster care. Moving right along. For now, I'd like to, do I move it now for first reading or next week? Okay. You should.
They received
They did
draft
receive it.
copies.
Everyone, has received it. Copy of the following policies. P3159, teaching staff member / school district reporting responsibilities. P3231, outside employment as athletic coach. P4159, support staff member / school district reporting responsibilities. P5305, health services personnel. P5350, student suicide prevention, and R5350, student suicide. These policies and the reg here that are listed are all minor changes. The changes to them are pretty much citations, legal citations based on changes and additional legal things.
Right.
So,
There was nothing substantive in them.
no substantive changes, just citation changes.
Any questions for Mrs. Winkler? Okay, thank you very much to the policy committee and the curriculum committee earlier. So that brings us to other board, is there new board business? That brings us to other board business. Are there any requests to attend workshops? Workshop reports. Mr. Murray.
So I attended the New Jersey School Board Association Semi-Annual Delegate Assembly this past Saturday. It wasn't a very long session. Some of the highlights, so they went through some of the committee reports. There were 7 of them. Donald Webster gave the president's report. A lot of it was just thanking just all the different boards and things for all their participation and everything that everybody has done to kind of coordinate getting getting through this year. Dr. Feinsod gave the executive director report. Some of the highlights, a couple things, was no raise in annual dues for the 8th straight year, which is very positive. He went through some of the school board highlights from school boards, as well as focusing on STEAM. There was he focused a lot on the STEAM initiative, and I know that there was a email that came out around the winners from the STEAM, at school boards as well. And then another thing that he pointed out was, I guess there's New Jersey Insurance Group is actually fully funding the January training. So now they have January training is fully funded. That's approximately $50,000, as well as the May training is already fully funded by another group as well. So those are donations, I'm guessing, that are coming in handy for that. From a business perspective, there was one resolution that was brought to the table, and it went through. Let me just give you the exact. It was the subcommittee for New Jersey School Board recommended the approval of it, and basically it was that the burden of proof and the burden of production in special education disputes should be placed on the party initiating the litigation, and that had successfully passed by 78% through New Jersey School Boards. It doesn't mean it's going to change, but it just means that now that they have support through New Jersey School Boards, if the legislature decides that they want to change anything, there's additional support there. So there was a lot of discussion. There was numerous districts both in favor and out of favor of it, but ultimately when it came to the vote, the motion passed. So that was the summary of the meeting. I have all the documentation if anybody would like to see any of the committee reports, as well as some of the resolution itself in the documentation. So that's available for people to preview if they'd like to see it.
Okay.
That concludes my report.
And thank you for representing us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Any other reports? I would mention, and Dr. Hayes may want to add in, we were both at the Garden State Coalition of Schools meeting yesterday, and most of the meeting was spent with David Sciarra, who is the executive director of the Education Law Center in New Jersey, and he was really invited to discuss budgeting and review the history of school funding, recent history of school funding in New Jersey, not only essentially the school funding formula that was put in place that has never been fully funded. It was to be funded, and then after 2 years, it stopped being funded over the last 7 years. And so, and also talking about what the implications are for this year in terms of funding for schools, and the possible maneuvering that might happen related to school budgets, and the notices that, the late notice we might get. So in other words, we will be waiting to hear what the governor says when he speaks on February, whatever it is, 28th. And then we'll be, we won't have much time, Mrs. Saradaki, if, depending upon what is said on the 28th. So there's a lot of discussion about what that might be, what might be said, and how people will respond. So a lot of that discussion was there, and some discussion also about what will be coming with the new Secretary of Education, so, but primarily it was about the budget, and we are still not back. The 1.1 billion that was cut still is not restored, but if there's interest on the governor's part to cut more. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. Is that a?
No, his presentation was very thorough in terms of going back to reviewing where the state was under CFA and how it moved forward to the SFRA's funding formula, and then from there, how that intersects with some of the current proposals that are out there to revise the funding. So, for example, the governor's fair funding formula, as well as Mr. Sweeney's proposal. There's another proposal by DiPrieto, I think, as well, and how each of those would potentially impact districts in a different way. I think that the Education Law Center's view is that they think that the work that went into the original SFRA funding formula was fairly solid, and if there were a way to get the state to move further in the direction of fully funding that, it would create a fairly equitable platform for all districts.
I think the difference and the point that he was making is that the formula that Dr. Hayes is talking about has a set amount for every student, but it's weighted. So if you, no matter what district you are, if you have students who are at free and reduced lunch at a poverty level, or you have students who are English language learners, so students who require additional support, and it was also to include special ed, that then you would get more than this base amount because you would be needing to provide additional services. That's not always the case in this new fair funding formula. It would just be a set amount. It wouldn't matter if you need to help English language learners or special education or any of these other things. So there are a number of issues like that if something like that were to happen. In the time frame, he gives his message on the 28th, and the districts received the notices on March 2nd. And then they're due to the county already in I forget when in March, but we have to approve
in March
the budget, yes. So
the state is having challenges with some of its revenues, matching the revenue projections that they had. And so the concern is whether or not there'll be, what level of state aid there'll be across the state.
I think the hope at this point is that at least it's flat funding.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hope, that it's flat funding.
That's the hope every year.
Even though, again, we're not back to the cuts that were made 7 years ago.
Okay.
So
it was a good meeting, and I celebrate the fact that Garden State has worked very hard this year at its meetings to bring in people so that we can not only share our different views on critical issues, but also that help inform the board members and superintendents who are able to be present.
yes. So they've been very good meetings. Okay. Let's see, next meeting we'll be approving the minutes from November. And now we have the opportunity for the public to come to the microphone. But seeing no one, we'll move on to the good of the order.
I have something to say. I think we should all hang up our pictures along with this other artwork.
Oh, wow. That could do. Well, I wanted to comment on how nice this artwork is.
Beautiful.
And a real variety. The public really needs to come and see, because we have artwork in the back as well that's wonderful. Anyone else for the good of the order?
Well, fall winter sports have started, so there's a lot to see. I've been to a few high school swim meets, very exciting, and I would encourage everyone. Well, swim meets are very warm, so they are warm. You're always yeah. Well, you always
getting there.
yeah. It's just getting there. But look for basketball's getting going and everything's getting going. So there's some indoor things to come and watch. for the students.
And the high school did a great job with their dramatic presentation. You can't take it with you.
Oh, yes.
It was very well done.
Yes. Okay, anyone else for the good of the order? All right, then can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I know no one's opposed. Have a good evening, everyone. Stay warm. Happy holidays.
I'm looking to see you.